Hello, everyone. Welcome. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you're joining us. My name is Elsa Marie De Silva. I'm the founder of Red Dot Foundation, and it is my absolute pleasure to invite you to this parallel event at the ECOSOC Partnership Forum. Whilst we are waiting for more people to join, I'd invite you to use the chat section to introduce yourself and tell us where you're joining from, who you are, and what interests you about this panel. So the ECOSOC Partnership Forum theme is reinforcing the 2030 agenda and eradicating poverty in times of multiple crises, the effective delivery of sustainable, resilient, and innovative solutions. And when I thought about this and I said, I'd like to host a discussion, and I was thinking about our work at Red Dot Foundation, which is ending violence against women and girls using technology, a crowdsourced platform called Safe City, which we have partners, and they'll talk about some of the work that we are doing. I realized that without partnerships, it is impossible to do any of this work because all these issues are bigger than each of us and bigger than our organizations to solve. And at Red Dot Foundation, we are very fortunate to have lots of different partnerships, whether it is with government officials, police, district education officers, other nonprofits, and education systems, as well as even transport companies like the Western Railways in Mumbai. So we titled our event Public-Private Partnerships for Safer Cities. And to help us decode this very vast topic, we have a great panel from the Philippines and from India. So we have Mayor Joy Belmont from Quezon City in the Philippines, and Maya Tamayo, who is the founder of Bai Inc. We also have Meera Sundararajan from the Gender Lab in Chennai. It's a city in South India. We have Afreen Siddiqui, who will be joining us. She's from UNDP and is the regional lead for government innovation. And we also have a police commissioner of Faridabad, Rakesh Arya, who will be joining us as well. So to kick start, I'm going to invite Mayor Joy to share with us what, can you tell us in your role as mayor, how do public-private partnerships, especially on the theme of safer cities for women, how do they come into being? Because I've had the opportunity to visit you in your city, and I've seen firsthand how beautifully your crisis response works. But it's not just crisis response, it's also the prevention, it's also, the whole ecosystem of support. So can you share with us a little bit about your work, and especially with regards to public-private partnership?
Well, I'm happy and grateful to be part of this panel, and I'd like to thank Elsa also for having come and visited us here in Quezon City. And as Elsa mentioned, she came to visit our protection center, which was the very first project that I started when I became an elected official way back in 2010. And this is a one-stop crisis center for victim survivors of gender-based violence and abuse. And it's the first of its kind, I think, in the country because it has all of the services under one roof: legal services, medical services, psychosocial, counseling, economic, everything. And even police assistance is also there. And well, first and foremost, it started as a vision. Nobody believed in it. Gender equality was not a very big deal when I was first elected. So we started with just 2 staff. We didn't have any training. So all of everything that got us going in the beginning was the result of partnerships with all kinds of different organizations, mostly nonprofit organizations that took a chance on us. They trained our staff until we were able to have more staff in the facility. Then our doctors were all volunteer doctors coming from various civic organizations as well, our lawyers as well. and the only ones from government were really our police officers. And then we had shelters, which were all private shelters that we would refer our clients to. So in the beginning, it was all about partnerships. And then this really helped provide us with the expertise that we needed. It helped us provide the capacity and the training that our staff needed. It improved the quality of our work and our outcomes, and our vision improved and widened because of everybody's vision coming together, you know, and they were all very, very excited as well, because a lot of these civic organizations, these nonprofits, these private sector partners, they don't really work a lot with government. They don't have the opportunity to work with mayors or local government officials who are interested in gender-based violence as an advocacy. So when they met me, it was something that they felt was also good for them. And now the Protection Center has served thousands of clients, and now we don't rely too much on partnerships anymore. But we, in the beginning, relied almost 100% on partnerships and networks that we had built. And I think that is I guess one of the main services that we have. And I just want to add, I know that we are not on a time limit, but another project that I think will interest you, Elsa, is something new that we just started. But it is my vision to make our city a safe space for everyone, all genders. And just last November, I came up with a forum wherein we invited all the business establishments in our city and to come forward, because I wanted to make them appreciate what it means to be a safe city. So we presented data to them that showed that when everyone felt safe and happy and protected, and they felt they had a place to report any kind of harassment or discrimination, that they could report this and get justice, no? And productivity would improve. And of course, for businesses, when you say productivity improves, oh, they get so excited. So now we are doing a series of workshops capacitating all these businesses to set up their committees on decorum and investigation, so that all victims of harassment can report, can have access to justice. There's a process now for investigation, and violators that are penalized or even suspended or can lose their jobs. You know, depends on the gravity. And now that all the businesses have come on board, this is for me the biggest step that we are taking towards making sure that our city is a safe space for all genders. And so I guess that's something I wanted to share with you.
You for sharing that. And, you know, honestly, I have so many questions, but one of the main questions is, making a space safe is actually good for everyone. And like you said, businesses also thrive in that sense. In India, for example, I feel the lack or the perception of the lack of safety sometimes holds women back, you know, and we'll come to that in a moment. But what makes these partnerships successful? Because does it stem from you, or does somebody come to you with an idea and you buy into the idea? And then how can we do more of these public-private partnerships, if you will?
Well, in Quezon City, we thrive on public-private partnerships, but I would like to stress that in a country like ours, it's a developing country, and there's very little trust on public officials here for obvious reasons. You know, people always have this stereotype about local chief executives being corrupt, self-interested, not interested really in helping the people, wanting to rob the coffers of the country, etc. So the most important thing for me to make a partnership successful is to win back the trust and confidence of the private sector in government. And that's what we deliberately try to do here in our city. We try to improve our processes. Like I mentioned earlier, everything is now automated. We minimize face-to-face interactions. That means minimizing opportunities for corruption. We try to improve efficiency levels here. We try to make ourselves accessible to people. We try to put in place various mechanisms so that people can be in touch with their government, then can get information. We have a transparent government, accountable government. And you know, when you have all of those good governance principles in place, then the private sector will trust you and they will want to work with you, because they know that the best way also to scale up their advocacies is to work with government, because we have all of the resources, we have the people, we have the staff to scale up everybody's advocacy. So actually, it's a win-win situation for everyone when we all work together. And us in government, you know that the government is kind of slow when it comes to adopting new technologies and becoming trained in various skills that are needed to move forward. So the private sector in turn provides us with these resource gaps. They fill these gaps. They give us expertise. They give us quality. They make us aim for higher quality of service. And so I think that it all comes together when everybody is motivated by the same thing. We have the same objectives, the same vision. But again, I would like to stress that you have to be a trustworthy government for people to want to work with you.
But it also has to be driven from the top, because there can be pushback, especially if there's a bit of upskilling or a change of mindset in how you're approaching this particular way of solving the problem. So I do think the leader has a big role to play.
Thank you. Thank you, Elsa. And I
Yeah.
would like to, by the way, thank you, because one partnership we have is with you, the Red Dot Foundation. We have the Save City app, and it's become very successful. We've been able to roll this out to all the different communities where women thrive, like in the universities, in the workplaces. And I just want to thank you, because this is one of the very successful private public partnerships that we have been able to work on. And I owe that to you and your team. Thank you so much for that, Elsa.
Thank you. And I want to bring in your local partner, who is our partner, our Safe City chapter partner in the Philippines, Bayi Inc. So Maya, what is it like to work with government, especially someone like Mayor Joy?
Yes, thank you. Good evening, good morning, and good day to everyone. So I want to say that I am a Quezon City resident, and we are very proud of our mayor. I'm part of the constituency of Mayor Joy Belmonte. So at least for Bayi, it wasn't really difficult for us to work with Mayor Joy, because Mayor Joy was already our peer mentor in Bayi Inc. for our women local officials. I'd like also to greet one of our Angat Bayi fellows here, Councilor Maya Bongko. I think she's in the room. And because she was selected as one of our mentors, because she was really already a champion for women, gender equality, women's empowerment, inclusion, and safer cities. She has been doing innovative projects. It also helped that, you know, I think Mayor Joy mentioned earlier, and in the introduction of Camila, that she also values evidence-based decision making. So she's really huge also with technology and data. And I think that's one of the things that make it very strategic for the Safe City Philippine chapter. It was easy to work with the government and local government units, mayors, vice mayors, and councilors, especially with Angat Bayi fellows, because of the things because of this, when they value evidence-based thinking and decision making and the data and technology. One of the strategy also of Bayi was also to do strategic partnerships. So we not only work with local government units, but we also work with agencies. So currently we're in talks with the Department of Transportation and the Interior Local Government because it was kind of a purposive strategic partnership for us to make sure that we do exponential replication and promotion of the application. Although we started, Elsa knew this, we started with a barangay, smaller village here in UP, which is also part of Quezon City, wherein they already also legislated ordinance in the promotion of safe city. It is also a big plus that we have volunteers on the ground, especially young men also, no? So that's one of the things that also works here in Quezon City, spaces for young men and allies to champion also safe cities. So we hope to replicate it exponentially. Eventually, we've also tapped Vespa riders. Very recently, we also partnered with Commission on Human Rights, and it was a multi-stakeholders, multi-sectoral partnerships, wherein we had motor, Vespa riders, we had the Lunas Collective, we had the government agencies, to to promote safe city together and collectively. So I hope that in 2024 we'll be able to replicate it in other cities also. Hopefully we find the same quality leaders like Mayor Joy who already champion gender equality and safe city and women's empowerment.
So from what I'm gathering from what you're saying is that establishing close relationships with government officials, especially through mentoring programs, can really help the buy-in and build the trust on both ends, because it's really building, like Mayor Joy said, that people don't necessarily trust the government. So how do you already create relationships of trust? And then the second is using evidence-based data, which an application like Safe City can provide, that can inform policy or decision making. I wanted to ask Mayor Joy, when we talk about mentoring, and mentoring is often spoken about in the corporate sector, to help women advance in their careers. But here we are talking about mentoring even in building the capacity of women to participate in political processes. How important and critical do you think it is?
I believe it's very, very important to be able to help women recognize their strengths, especially in the political space, because we're still very traditional in many aspects, especially with the stereotypes that often pervade in countries such as ours, where women are often boxed in to certain types of roles, and sometimes it's really very hard to get out of them. But I think the best way to mentor is not to talk about it, but to be the example that you want other women to be. So it's like, if I wasn't the kind of leader that I was, it would be very hard for me to convince other young women to run for public office. But because I now I'm now on my, I don't know how many, I finished 3 terms as vice mayor. So that's legislative work, and then this is my second term as mayor. And I often I'm asked to speak to young girls who are in high school or college about politics and the role of women in the political space. And I show them that, I tell them, for example, that issues such as gender equality, these are not issues that are championed by men, but these are very important issues, because if women cannot participate equally in all spheres of or all spaces, for that matter, economic, business, technology, STEM, etc., then you're missing half the talent in the country or in the city. And by being that example of a woman that has probably broken through barriers and been able to lead the city. This is actually the largest city in the Philippines in terms of population, and the third largest city in terms of land area. I believe I am actually the best mentor myself, rather than my words, for those who want to or are thinking of entering politics. So I think that it's very important to act rather than talk when you want to be a mentor to other young girls.
Well, I believe the personal is the political and the political is the personal. So if we want safer spaces, safer cities for ourselves, we must engage in the political processes. Even if we don't run for offices like the mayor's office, we must know how these things work, because otherwise, what's the point? We can't advocate for ourselves, and we can't, make the institutions accountable in providing us the infrastructure that we need, or meeting our needs, and helping us live our rights in a way. So maybe at this point, Maya, you would like to share a little bit about your program on Bai Inc. and how you work with women to advance their political leadership.
Yeah, so thank you. Also, I just wanted to add also to Mayor Joy when she said that she the best mentorship is really to show them how to do it. And we usually always bring women Angat Bai fellows from all over the country, wherein we do transformative feminist leadership capacity building. So we have courses and mentoring program, and we always bring them to Quezon City to see all the good practices that we have in Quezon City. And it's, experiential visits and this kind of mentoring actually are the best ones. So when they go back to their LGUs, they immediately learn whatever they got from these visits, and then they go and replicate, file ordinances, do policy reform, replicate the programs like the protection centers. A lot of our fellows have already replicated the programs of Mayor Joy, protection centers, the shelters, and women's economic livelihood programs that she has here in Quezon City. So we also do capacity building among young women. This is to solve one of our biggest problems here in the Philippines right now, which is the dynastic families holding power. So our fellows are strongly encouraged, those who completed the fellowship program, to replicate the program at the local level among young women aspirants who can also be their support group, and at the same time develop them as the second generation of feminist leaders. And eventually, these fellows also do policy reforms on women empowerment, gender, social inclusion, and disability rights.
Great. So at this point, I want to bring in Meera. Meera Sundararajan is from the city of Chennai. They have a gender lab. And I want Meera to first explain to us what is the gender lab, because I think it's a unique concept. I haven't heard of any other Indian city that has something like that. So please, can you share with us your thoughts?
So good evening, good morning, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you, Red Dot Foundation, for having us here and sharing our story. So this is very inspiring hearing the Mayor Joy and Maya's story. So we are relatively younger in comparison. So we are about 2 years old. We came into being as part of a larger project, that is the Chennai City Partnership Project that the World Bank has with the city of Chennai, with the various government departments. So one of the things that came about was, when the project started, was there were a number of studies done, and it was found that there was need for a unit like ours, the Gender and Policy Lab, which would address the issue of women's access to public spaces, and also raise awareness and build in interventions on mobility. So we are located within the urban local body, the Greater Chennai Corporation. And though we are located there, we also work with certain other departments, because safety and security is not just access to public spaces. Safety, security is just not one department's responsibility. So we are four of us, and we came into being in Feb 2022. So we're going to be 2 years old. So this is we are actually the first gender and policy lab. And as the name suggests, we are a lab. We tried out certain things, and then, see what is working and scaling up what is working, and trying to learn from other experiences, and, see how we can do it in our own way. So we started out with doing a number of studies, and then, use the findings to build certain interventions. So, we work with the specific government departments which are concerned with women's safety, such as the police, then with the planning authority of the city, because when you build a city, you have to ensure that the city is gender inclusive. Then we have the metro rail in the city, which runs the train. So we also work with them. So we have set up what is called the interdepartmental working group. So you have representatives and senior officials who are part of this. And additionally, we have another group, which is called the Voluntary Advisory Committee, in which we have got civil society representatives. So we've got like two groups, the government and civil society. And wherever required, we also have citizens engagement. Like recently, we did a safety audit where we called for citizens to come as fellows, and we trained them, and we did audits around certain parts of the city. So, so that's how we've been engaging. So it's been 2 years. So we are we are supported by Nirbhaya funds. There is this. I mean, all of you who've been following the news would have heard about Nirbhaya, which is like it happened many years ago. There was a young woman who suffered a lot of violence in Delhi. So, in her memory, the government set up a fund, and this is a government funding. So, our unit is supported by that. It has got 60-40, it's got some funding by the central government and some by the state government. So our particular unit, though it's part of the larger World Bank project, we are supported by the Nirbhaya funds.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. And I wanted to bring Mayor Joy here in. So Mayor Joy, the one-stop crisis center that you spoke about and specific initiatives for violence against women and girls, who funds it? Is it government funds or is it again private sector funding as well?
Well, you mentioned earlier, Elsie, you asked me that question, who initiates what? Sometimes something is initiated by the city government. For example, the protection center that I talked about, that was our initiative. And we funded the facility. But most of the training that we received from our private partners, sometimes they had funds from other sources, let's say embassies or other funding agencies to help them out. No, but because it's also, I think funding agencies don't directly give to government here in the Philippines, just because of this trust issue I was talking about. So they really like to course their funds through the private sector. So some of that is funded, but most of the time, the city government funds everything that is not, well, everything is usually funded by the city government. Now, with regards to initiatives like, let's say we have another partnership, this is with Spring Act and the Swiss government. This is another app, it's called the Sophia Chatbot. This one is an initiative of the Swiss Embassy and Spring Act, and they were looking for a partner, and they decided to partner with the city government. And so this one, the training, it's all them, and they coursed it as well through another private partner, which is Spark Philippines. But then after they trained us, then we bringing it up to scale is already the city government that spends for it. So actually, when you're talking about bringing things to scale, expanding exponentially, as Maya would like to say, everything is usually at the expense of the government as well. That's why it's very important, as you mentioned, and as Maya said, to be able to mentor women leaders who understand the importance of gender equality and safe spaces as an aspect of that, because we have to decide how to allocate public funds. And if you don't consider these things important, then these kinds of advocacies will not be funded and will not be given attention.
Yes, now that you mention it, our Arabic version of the Safe City app in Jordan is funded by the Swiss Embassy with our partners, Generations for Peace. And I think it is important because not everybody necessarily adopts some of these issues which are hard hitting, like sexual violence. So these funders are very important. I do want to say, Mayor Joy and Maya, thank you for sharing your thoughts. I know it's very late in the Philippines. So if you have any last words on public-private partnerships, please share with us, and then we can continue the discussion with three of our other panelists.
Maya, go ahead.
Okay. Well, for us, for BAI, it's really important for us to find partners who actually aligns with our values and principles. That's one of the first things that we look for a partner. But at the same time, we also make it an opportunity to actually transform norms, perspectives, if there is a space for that one. So partnerships can also lead to that one. Our programs would also lead to that one. So we don't close the doors because at the end of the day, we don't want to preach to the choir. We want to expand more, and we want to influence more people. Also to advocate what we believe in and to believe in the vision that we have. But really at the bottom line would be everyone should be able to we should be able to value, even if if it's really the grassroots movement, the LGU officials, the government agencies, private entities, we should be able to value their contribution in the advocacy.
And everybody has a part to play because together we are stronger. Yeah,
Yes.
I agree.
Yes. And I think just to add to what Maya said, from the perspective of government, it's so important for government leaders to be consistent, because my goal here in the city is to build long-term relationships with our partners. So the projects that we undergo or undertake are not meant to be just one-off projects. What we want is to be able to build a relationship that will last for years and will touch and impact many lives and can grow multiple branches, so one small project can lead to many, many things if there is consistency in the nature of the relationship. And again, that means, just like Maya said, we have to respect one another. We have to value the partnerships that we have. We have to value each other's role, and we have to value the importance that each one brings into the success of one project or program. So I just want to say that as a local government official, I cannot survive in this job without the private partners that I work with in all my different advocacies. And I would like everybody here to real, if you don't get to talk to your mayors or your government officials, please know that all your work is valued, it's important, and we gain so much inspiration from what you do.
Thank you for sharing that, because there's a hesitancy to engage. And I do believe that we should make every effort on the part of citizens to also bridge that gap. So thank you so much for taking time to talk to us, Mayor Joy and Maya,
Thank
and
you,
have a
Elsa.
wonderful evening. Yeah.
Thank you. And thank you, everybody. Good night.
Yeah. We now have Afreen. So Afreen, may I request you to put on your video, please, whilst we continue the conversation. So Afreen is from UNDP and she leads regional government innovation. So talking about cities, so Meera is from Chennai and Mayor Joy is from Quezon City. We are talking about public-private partnerships for safer cities. Can you share a little bit about the work that you have done, both in Maharashtra and in Telangana, with the government and with the private sector?
Thanks so much, Elsa, and I am totally thrilled to be a part of this this discussion, specifically spanning across the globe, experts from across the globe. And what a relevant question that you asked me, as I am right now sitting in the office of Niti Aayog in Delhi. That's where I am actually speaking from, working on a delegation that is heading on data-driven policy for climate change. So to answer your question, Elsa, I do have this history where I was with the government of Maharashtra, where we actually didn't have enough data at all in the ecosystem. That was pre-2010, where the governments were struggling on paper-based data collection system and still relying on whatever the field functionaries put on the dashboard is genuine data. And then at times, we also realized that data that is on that dashboard is almost redundant, not filled for 5 years, 4 years. When I was with the government of Maharashtra, I also briefly worked with the Women and Child Development Department, as well as the State Election Commission. And we were trying to get the data of violence against women when I was with the Women and Child Development Department, and data where elected women representatives have filed complaints for harassment, specifically in a state which has 50% reservation for women leaders. So both of these were really engaging tasks, and this was way back in 2008, 2009 when I actually began the career with the government. And the fun part was, when you are new with the government, you're full of energy. You want to literally chase the entire world. And when I realized that there was this lack of data in the entire ecosystem, but there was a strong will that came from the policymaker who was leading the department. And the way she completely nudged the entire system to activate all the field functionaries to get that data. So now I'll just share with you what we were up to back then. So all this ecosystem that currently exists on analyzing data and then preempting, what challenges women would face in multiple facets when it comes to violence. These days, also this reporting on sexual harassment at workplaces is also a data that is being gathered by multiple government and non-government agencies, but this was not the case back then. We rolled out a voluntary movement of corporates who were keen to support their women and make their offices safer places to work. And L&T set the precedence back then, way back then in 2007, 8, and 9, where they did have a mechanism for women to anonymously report violence against them at work or harassment. And to my surprise, it was not just L&T. L&T also shared that Unilever had that mechanism also in place, Hindustan Unilever. So the government was pretty surprised. Say, we do a committee, and the committee meets every month, and we put an agenda, and the agenda just for the namesake finishes with that meeting. But they don't just do the meetings, they also deliberate upon what could be the reasons, what the data tells us. So this is something that the government actually picked from the private sector. It was something that the private sector already had, these large organizations, and then they voluntarily supported the government in building that mechanism. And exactly that year, in 2009, that rule was set in Mantralaya as well as the other district administrations, that the sexual harassment committees that exist in government offices will not just exist for namesake, but will also have a data reporting. So way back in 2009, and now sitting in 2023, I am so proud to also be part of initiatives that have graduated so well. So back then I was with the Maharashtra government. Currently, I'm with the UNDP, and in my position as the regional lead on public sector innovation, we worked with the Telangana government. So I'm sure all of you would agree that when it comes to these innovative, policy making interventions, what it really takes is one innovative leader to take a stand that I want to do this, and then the rest follow. So we met with a very innovative bureaucrat in Telangana who said, I want to try doing 10,000 crazy, unbelievable, risk-oriented things that can make my, my state a safer state for women, for children, for public sector, for private sector. So he had a wish list of things that he had on his, and the person's name is Jayesh Ranjan. Whoever in the government, whoever works in the government ecosystem would already know the name because he's pretty popular in the innovation ecosystem. So he said that there is, a mechanism where, and he also studied a lot about data-driven policy making for safe cities. He came back to us saying, we actually went to him saying, we want to prototype a unique data-driven policy experiment with you. The first thing he came back to us and he said, let's do data-driven policy for safer cities for women. And what did he do? There was a prototype that he had in his mind, and he was here. And we as UNDP tried supporting with various case studies from across the globe where this was implemented. Interestingly, there is this city, there's a place called Cyberabad in Hyderabad city, where it's basically considered as an IT hub where a lot of women work until late hours. He wanted to try something in an area where he doesn't have to set up hardwares and software systems. So all these IT parks and IT companies have their own mechanism to make sure their workplaces are safer. So there were CCTV cameras and all of this set. And some part of it also was with the government. the creative exercise that he began doing was trying to use the CCTV surveillance data to be able to track what is the pattern of criminal hotspots in and around Cyberabad. And it was observed that there is a pattern. And then they tried to find the roots of why is this a pattern? Who are the people who are hanging around more in that area? And then the entire police machinery was activated to keep stronger vigil in that area in civil dresses. And then what happened is they tracked down a group of men who generally hang around for eve teasing. And that is how they managed to use their intelligence and convert this into more actionable intelligence to feed it into a stronger policy. Just for Cyberabad, they circulated an experiment-based GR where there will be more female constables alerted, specifically late evening hours, because that area reported crime. And he didn't stop there. Of course, then later on, that was the first experiment.
I just want to pause over there, Afreen. So thanks for sharing these examples. So I think it's very important that, like I said right in the beginning, that this issue is too big. Safety of women in cities is too big for any one organization, institution to solve on its own. So that's why you need a range of partners. And what you said is one leader, takes one leader to, create such an ecosystem. We already heard from Mayor Joy from Quezon City, Philippines, and now you're talking about Jayesh Ranjan from Telangana. I want to bring in Rakesh Arya. He, a few months ago, took on his new portfolio as Police Commissioner of Faridabad in North India, and he asked us to partner with him. So we've been mapping hotspots. We've been helping his team think about, the nature of the violence, which is mainly eve teasing that keeps coming up. So I wanted to ask you, Rakesh, that when you're talking about safer cities and as a police official, how do you view public-private partnerships in helping you do your job?
Hi, first of all, good evening, everyone, and thanks, Elsa, for giving me this opportunity to be part of this such an important conversation and discussion. So coming to the effective policing, and when we talk about policing, the issues related to women and children, or so-called the vulnerable section of society, comes to our mind firstly. So we have been doing a lot of things as a law enforcement agency. We were because we know that whenever females or the ladies move out, so they are vulnerable to many crimes, which many times is not reported actually. It starts from eve teasing, stalking, and many more. So I would first talk about a couple of initiatives which we were already taking, or we are still doing. Firstly, we try to provide unique IDs to the autos which are run in Faridabad. So they are in like huge number. They are more than 14,000-15,000. So we saw the trend. We not only studied the calls which are made to the control room or the centralized control room now, which is dial 112. So depending on the basis of those patterns in the calls, we came to the conclusion that a lot of crime happens with the females or the women while transit, like whether they are going from home to their workplace or to the market, or maybe in case of students when they are going to attend to some coaching or tuitions, etc. So this was one thing which we focused on, and we have been able to provide the unique IDs to each and every auto in Faridabad now. So we have those unique numbers along with the QR codes, so it can be easily identified and recognized. Secondly, we are providing the facility of tracking the routes for females. So whenever they feel that this particular route is not safe, or the timing of my travel or their travel is not actually the routine time, So they can always, they have registered themselves with dial 112, this facility, and then they just notify the control room that we are going, will be using this route from this time to this time. So our people in the control room, they track those, they keep calling them and they asking them whether they have reached home safe or not. So another thing which we have started here is dropping off a facility to the females, particularly during odd hours. If they don't find any public transport, or they don't feel safe for whatever reasons, so they just dial 112. We provide the police vehicles to drop them off to their specific places. So we are creating awareness, crowdsourcing of hotspots, hot routes, all these kind of things are done. So are being done by us. So coming to the specific thing which you have asked, although all those efforts are being done, have been done for so many times, and many officers who joined here, they've been doing all such kind of initiatives and things. So, but we realize that whatever we are doing is not obviously sufficient or enough. So mainly so, because we were not able to come up with the exact data or the vulnerable routes or the hotspots, because they were not really opening up. They were not giving us the entire or the complete information. They were hesitant. Whenever police people go and ask, they always say, no, everything is good and police is doing a good job and we are safe. There is no, because they hesitate to come forward and make complaints. So we first, on the basis of some previous statistics which we had, and some initial kind of survey which you can call. So we tried to identify the actual vulnerable points and the routes, and we conducted a baseline survey with Red Dot Foundation people, the Safe City campaign, which they run in different cities. So basically, basically building on whatever the experience they have, whatever expertise they have, whatever previous like experience with the working with law enforcement agencies in different cities they have. So we started with this, and then we came up with a lot of vulnerable points, hotspots, and the routes. On the basis of that, then we went for the intervention, specific intervention, which many of the interventions were required on the police side, like increasing the police presence and alerting those people who actually commit such crimes by way of not we have a like smart city thing here in Faridabad. So we have a lot of audio systems where we can actually talk to people, or it's a one-way thing. We can spread around audio messages from a centralized control room to many parks and all those roundabouts and important points in the city. So a couple of things were done, not only from the police side, but we also approached to the civil authorities like transport, education, urban planning corporation. So we also identified the areas which were not well lit up, the things like that, and the public transport where it was not safer. CCTV cameras are being installed in the local buses, or wherever the government can actually do it at their own level. A lot of other people have also come up to help us out in this, and the issue has been actually flagged. The women's safety is a issue, is a pertinent issue, and is something which needs attention not only from the law enforcement agency, but from the other stakeholders also. They should not think that the old mindset is not right, that only the police has to take care of it. So we are to be involved in the entire process, right from the urban planning and then implementation part, and then actual providing the safer cities, safer roads, safer transportation. Whenever they move out of their home, whether they go to the markets or the busier places or to the mall or to their the workplace, so they not only should feel safe, but they should remain safe. They should be safe. And this problem was also with the children, because nowadays they don't have much places to like move around, or common places. So they are equally vulnerable. So all these things have been done. Moreover, they have been able to help us in terms of training our people, sensitizing our people, because sometimes they don't actually appreciate the real problem, and they deal with a very dogmatic or the primitive mindset whenever the complainant approaches them. So number of batches have already been trained. The process is on. So it is helping our men and women who are on duty or who are dealing with these types of crimes. And self-defense trainings are also being conducted for women who are interested, who are coming forward with these kind of interests. So there are a couple of other things which we have introduced in terms of applications, apps,
Yeah,
like they can download.
I'm just
Sure.
gonna stop you there and bring in Meera, because you raised a few important points. So one is training the mindsets of people in government to look at the problem differently, because they are so caught up, and maybe they are overworked, and they are understaffed as well. And the second one is the role of technology. How can technology help make the work easier? And the third one is transport. So starting with Meera and then Afreen, because transportation seems to be a key infrastructure that needs to be addressed when we are talking about safer cities for women.
Uh, so, what would you like me to talk about, Elsa?
What are you all doing at the
Okay.
Chennai Gender and Policy Lab in these
Okay.
key areas?
Okay, so let me talk to you first about transportation. We recently did a survey. We did a survey which is called, where we surveyed about 3,000 citizens in the city with 500 men, 2,400 women, and 100 transgenders. And one of the, to understand the perception of safety of women, in what do women perceive, women and men perceive about safety in the city. So it was very interesting. We got an understanding in terms of what is the average distance traveled by women, and what purposes do women travel. And men and women travel, their travel patterns are very different, as you know, because women generally tend to use public transport more than men. If there is an option for a private transport at home, it would be the man who's using it. And women travel with children, women do trip chaining. So there are a whole lot of conditions around which women travel. And one of the key issues that emerged was, most of the women said that the last mile connectivity was the biggest challenge. Most of them use the transport. In Chennai, we have a fantastic bus system. It has always people use the buses, and the government has now made it free for women and transgenders. So the thing is that while the number of buses are there, frequency is there, but the problem comes that when you reach your point, then what? How do you reach your home? So that becomes a vulnerable point for women. So you get dropped at your bus stop, and you have to go, and what then? So then the paramodal transport comes, where you use auto rickshaws, or you use what we call shared autos. So that's one challenge that came about. And the second thing that came about was harassment in public spaces. I think we mentioned eve teasing. We prefer to call it harassment in public spaces, street harassment. One of the things that came about as part of our survey was that uh, the reporting of these harassment cases are very less. I think Commissioner of Police Faridabad sir had also mentioned about this. See, there is always this, there's a shame in reporting this. Most of the cases, if you look at the police heat maps, like we have a joint commissioner of police in our working group. So one of the things that she was telling us is that the kind of reports that usually come are dowry harassment, domestic violence, child marriages. These are the things that keep coming with respect to crimes against women. And when we talk about crimes against women in public spaces, those crimes would be very generic crimes, like chain snatching, bag snatching, mobile snatching, those kind of things. Women are very okay about reporting, but they're not okay about reporting like they were harassed, stalked, whatever. And the police have a very nice app called the Kavalan Udavi app, which you can download from the Google Play Store. And women can use that to, to file their complaints. But there are some issues, and I mean, you have to give your mobile number when you download it. So most of the women who there were a group of women that we found in the survey who said that they were not very aware of the app. Then those who were aware, they said, why do I need to give my mobile number? There is always this hesitance that, should I give it to the police? And there's always the fear if the police comes, and if there's a case, then what? There's this whole fear that goes around that. So this also comes in the way of the police's understanding of where is the crime taking place, because they are going by what data that they have. The patrols are positioned based on that. So so those would be the challenges in terms of that. But actually, we were involved. We did some mock drills with the police where we called 100. We had done safety audits. We had done safety audits, I mentioned earlier, and there's so many parameters we looked at. Basically, the infrastructure in the city, which is safety enabling, street lighting being a very important part of it. And I think the question came about was on data. So the corporation manages the street lighting, and we have something called the 1913, which is a number that they call to complain about any civic amenities. And we looked at all the street lighting data which was there, where were the dark spots which were there. And in a very targeted and focused way, we started addressing that. But in the safety audit also, we tried to look at the dark spots, the street lighting. And one of the things that we did with the police was we did a mock drill. We were there with senior police officers, and then they told us, you just call 100 and you see how long what is the time taken to respond, and what is the quality of response. And there was there was a lot of openness in terms of accepting what we had to say, how to respond. I mean, the response we felt it was good, but they didn't seem to be very satisfied. They said it should have been faster. But yes, certain questions are asked because it's a call center where it goes. So they say that under which police station limit are you? Really, a woman who's harassed, will not know that. So, but they did pick up from the location. They were able to send the patrols. So these are some of the things that we were able to do. We engage citizens to do that. But overall, if you look at the perception of safety in the city, there are certain spaces that women don't want to go to. We have wherever there are liquor shops in the city, they don't want to go there. And usually women manage their timings. Girls will go out in groups, or after 6 p.m. they won't go. So these are all things that came. And certain spaces which public toilets, for example, all women are very nervous about going to. It came up in our safety audits also. Certain public toilets are located in places which are near tea shops, or maybe opposite there is a liquor shop. So women don't want to go to those spaces. So one of the things that we are doing is looking at the public toilets, and looking at the footfalls there, talking to the women to see what can be done to make these toilets safer. And even if you look at something like parks in the city, see, parks are well used.
The app in Chennai, it's the beach, because you have a long coastline.
Yes, yeah.
And is a problematic area as well.
Yeah, it is. In fact, some parts of you have a huge police patrolling that takes place in the beach. In fact, after 9, beaches are not accessible because apparently that's an area where there is criminal activity that happens. But if you look at the parks probably in the coastal areas of Chennai, the parks are not used so much because people prefer to go to the beach. But certain other parts of the city, which is away from the beach, parks are used. But you see, there is a difference in the way parks are used. So in a middle and upper middle class area, there are more women in the parks. But if you see the North Chennai, which is a more economically disadvantaged places, women are very hesitant to come to parks because they say, park, there are drunk men, and parts of the parks, because it's foliage and it's dark. So one of the things that we have given is a kind of a checklist to the park that how do you maintain a park, and what is the infrastructure that would be suitable in a park to make it much more welcoming to women. So, one is this whole thing of foliage trimming and keeping it sort of free from
We
dark
saw
corners.
that in Mumbai as well, where the street lights were dim because of the foliage covering the lights.
Yeah.
And if you can identify these spots, then you engage the municipal, actually the police or the municipal commissioner to trim the street lights. So everywhere it's public-private partnerships and all kinds of partnerships. I wanted to turn to Afreen. When you spoke about this one bureaucrat who had this idea, but to trickle that idea down, especially when it requires a lot of new technology and a new way of doing things, how long, what does it take to make that happen? The mindset change? Because even Rakesh spoke about it, right? Like his police team are thinking about it in a certain way, and you have to break that cycle of thinking.
I think I quite resonated with Rakesh ji on what he mentioned, and also started getting nostalgic about the days we were talking about what number of teams should start engaging with each other. So for those who have not yet engaged or worked with the government, typically in an ideal government system, every department would have a gender budget, and they would do something or the other towards women's welfare, safety. And ideally, all these departments should actually be coordinating with each other to be able to make best use of the budgets that they are provided, and not make siloed use of one app here, one dashboard there, one team working on one task, the other disconnected. To really make that change happen when it comes to transforming in the real sense, a digital ecosystem, the first thing I would like to share is that technology is not the solution alone in the ecosystem. The major part of the challenge versus the solution actually lies in the human resource capital and the capabilities that exist within the government and the non-government machinery. So I say that because it's not just the government, but it's also the non-government machinery. When it comes to data, and you see the, if you see the GitHubs of the world, when it comes to gender, there is less government data there, and there is more non-traditional civil society, non-government data.
Citizen generated data.
So those basically is that in the data language is called as non-traditional data. Traditional data is something that you adhere to, the government releases, all of this is vetted. This non-traditional data is basically the magic bullet, because the traditional data has something which is completely traditional, streamlined. You can't expect innovation out of it. But then innovation is coming out of the young startups that are thinking, completely breaking stereotypes and wanting to experiment on new ideas. So what I feel is there are three important, you can say, the keys to open this lock of the challenge that we're talking about. First, most important is mapping the ecosystem and leveraging each other's resources. There is not much funding or economic advancement happening in this side of the world when it comes to data and digital. But still, you will see people are really wasting a lot of money on one. CSR is funding one app, the other CSR is funding another technology platform. Generally, what is seen is these are, and India is, by the way, known as the graveyard of pilots. So there are many pilots in India.
I heard that this morning from somebody else. India is the graveyard of pilots.
In the international development sector, it is used in a positive sense, because wherever there's this graveyard of pilots, there's more room for innovation. Because you will know that you have lessons learned in each of the pilots that did not bloom or scale. So the first key is, ideally, we must join forces to collaborate together and leverage each other's resources. The second key is, we must foster a learning by doing culture, not just in the in that ecosystem that exists in the government, but across. So more participatory culture, so that we know what exists, what doesn't, what are the do's, what are the don'ts, lessons learned. And third, and the most important tagline that I want to share is, technology and digital is not the end, it's the means to the end. It unlocks opportunities, provided we are able to feed the platform, good data, and also the capability side, where people are able to use it, not just for feeding information in the dashboard, but to translate it into some kind of action and also feedback into policy. I hope I was able to answer your questions.
Yeah, thank you. Those are very important. Leverage each other's resources and collaborate. Two is technology is not the only thing. We have to have feedback loops that feed into policy. And the middle one was I have a mind.
It was on capabilities.
Yes, the capabilities. So Rakesh, I want to turn to you. What would make public-private partnerships, what would build more trust in these public-private partnerships to make it successful?
Yeah, Elsa, to my mind, first of all, we have to give that confidence to the complainant or the victims that they must come forward and try and like register their complaints. Even if they don't want to reveal their IDs, it can be faceless. There are opportunities, there are options nowadays due to technology. They have this option of giving complaints even without revealing their IDs or the phone numbers or their whatever specific things. So first thing which I feel that they should come forward with the complaint, and as government agencies or the law enforcement agency, we should understand and appreciate that there is a problem. So then only we can find a solution, and for that certainly private sector can help us a lot, because as I mentioned about that our dial 112 facility, which is a centralized control room now. So again, those calls are not being taken by police people nowadays. So we have hired it or outsourced it to the some agency. They are not police people. They take the call. They don't ask not only unnecessary questions but uncomfortable questions, which ma'am just mentioned. That many times a lot of questions are asked. They ask the questions which they feel embarrassed to, and sometimes they don't know which is the specific jurisdiction or the location. So they are actually helping us out, and very limited questions are being asked to the victims of crime whenever they report or whenever they approach to us. And secondly, as I mentioned, that there should be an understanding and appreciation from the government or the law enforcement agency side that there is a problem. We cannot ignore it, and we should try and get the hotspotting or the vulnerable route thing as we are doing in Faridabad. That because when our people only go and ask them, they say that all is well, but actually all is not good, and many times for various reasons, as we all of know, that they hesitate to come forward. And thirdly, I think I missed the name, the lady who spoke just before me, Afreen.
Afreen?
Okay. Yeah, Afreen, that she mentioned we should leverage all the resources which we have, because there is always like dearth of resources. We don't have specific funds. There should be better interdepartmental coordination, very specific thing which collaborating with private sector like we have done with you helps. When we come up with those data and the statistics which has been done by some NGO or some agency which has some credibility on some previous record, so whenever it comes up, it is published. So other departments also, like, they want to take advantage of that information, and they also don't want to be seen to be lagging behind. They want to come forward and collaborate with the main agency like police. And there is a lot of pressure is created through media also on
Mm.
them. So I think if
And now
we
social
only
media, everybody is a journalist, right? So everybody can,
yes,
highlight
yeah,
the complaints.
yeah, whenever these things are highlighted, this information, this statistic, this study, the safety audit, so people, they don't want to be seen to be lagging behind or not coming forward to cooperate and collaborate with the main lead or the law enforcement agencies. So I think when we approach directly as police agency, they may not, or they sometimes they don't take it that seriously. When we are collaborating or working with some NGO or some group, or like you people, we are working, probably we earn more credibility, and they think that we are really serious in doing something and to make a change on ground. So they go an extra mile to kind of come forward and help us. So I think this is the way forward, and we should really appreciate and accept that there is a problem, and we should do whatever best we can do. Yeah.
Thank you, Rakesh. I mean, we are very privileged to work with you because, it's not often that a police commissioner and his team are so open to receiving the data, to learn new things, and look at things, the same old problems in a new perspective. So thank you. It's about leadership, and that's what I've learned this evening with this discussion, right from Mayor Joy to all the examples quoted. And I really want to say that interdepartmental coordination really makes a case for the gender and policy lab like you have in Chennai, and even your role, Afreen, at UNDP. So maybe you can just quickly tell us what will it take to create more trust in public-private partnerships. Meera.
I think one of the trust is where there's an acceptance and an openness to receive feedback and take action. So that's something that really helps when we have civil society giving inputs to the government and the government listens and acts. And similarly, when we had citizens engaged in the safety audit, we they did follow up. It didn't come out in the media, but we systematically tracked based on the safety audit what were the thing and what was the action taken, and we shared the action taken. And people were also going there to see if this was happening. So really, it's an openness and it's an ability to hear each other. And that's something instead of putting the blame game, because a city is where we all live, and the conditions of the city and the safety is everybody's concern. We all live here, and blame game is very easy, but we have to do our bit to make the city a safe space. I think that's an important that's an important thing that makes it work.
Thank you. That was nice. Afreen, do we need more of you to help coordinate government resources?
No, I think my answer would be I have like two viewpoints on this. To be able to build a trust, you probably need to be more agile and participatory, which means you need to open up. If you look at the Global Happiness Index, governments that have open data sharing agreements with citizens, even including the social protection systems and all these public services, they're happier citizens in those countries that open up their data. And it's no big deal. It's also happening in our region. Many countries are taking up the initiative of open data. And second, and most important thing that we should look at when it comes to, so it is not the responsibility of somebody else to take care of your safety. The police machinery, the government, all the machineries exist, but we've always heard this from our parents since childhood, that God helps those who help themselves. So we should be able to consider this as a collective responsibility. And until that time, it will only be a blame game, and these things will continue to keep happening. So I think more of a behavioral change is needed when it comes to, ensuring our safety and building trust.
Thank you. I have learned so much. I mean, if I have to put it down in bullet points, it's about leadership, it's about political engagement of citizens in political processes. So we have to also overcome our own inhibition of working with government, whether it's police or city officials. We have to share resources because this issue is too big for any one of us to solve. Technology can play a role, and I'd encourage everyone to check out the Safe City app. It has data from 86 countries, concentrated data sets in 20 countries where we have partners. And we've used the data to engage with police, with city officials, with campus officials, with railways, with other transport officials. So do check it out because it's very actionable data. And like Afreen said, more and more these kind of non-traditional data sets are where the magic happens, because this is not, it's a unique set that doesn't necessarily reach the government or the police. And lastly, it's about having trust relationships across the board with private, public sector and civil society, because together we have all the resources needed to make our cities safe. So thank you so much for joining us, and thank you Meera, Rakesh, Afreen, Mayor Joy and Maya for sharing all your wonderful insights. It gives me hope that there's so much happening in cities. There are wonderful officials who are taking the lead to make things change, and I'm glad that we are part of some of these partnerships. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elsa. Thanks
Thank
for the
you.
opportunity.
Thank you, Elsa. Bye.
Bye. And
Bye.
Meera, can you in the chat section put the name of the app, because somebody wanted it?
Okay, sure, will do.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Yeah, bye.